In the heart of Langley, Virginia, the Central Intelligence Agency operates in the shadows, safeguarding American interests in an increasingly volatile world. Yet, recent workforce reductions and restructuring efforts have triggered a slow-motion crisis within the agency, one that threatens to cripple its intelligence capabilities at a moment when geopolitical tensions are at an all-time high. What we are witnessing is not just a budgetary reshuffling, but a systemic collapse mechanism, a self-defeating process in which the agency's personnel, processes, and infrastructure are being simultaneously destabilized. This triadic breakdown, if allowed to continue, will inevitably lead to a catastrophic intelligence failure, one that, like 9/11, will only be recognized in hindsight. At the core of this crisis is the rapid destabilization of personnel. The CIA recently initiated widespread buyouts and layoffs, targeting employees hired within the past 2 years. According to reports, some employees now hesitate to answer their phones, fearing they may receive termination notices. Morale has plummeted, and an agency built on secrecy and trust is suddenly filled with uncertainty. This is not a mere reshuffling of roles, it is an existential crisis for those tasked with protecting the nation. Experienced intelligence officers, particularly those specializing in critical areas such as counterterrorism and cyber warfare, are either being pushed out or choosing to leave voluntarily. Talent drain of this magnitude is not just an administrative inconvenience, it weakens the very backbone of intelligence operations. The best minds, those with the institutional knowledge to anticipate threats, are being systematically removed, leaving behind an understaffed and demoralized workforce struggling to maintain the same level of security readiness. The disruption of personnel naturally leads to the destabilization of CIA processes. Intelligence is not simply collected and stored, it is analyzed, cross-checked, and refined through a network of internal reviews and feedback loops. These mechanisms ensure that reports are accurate, actionable, and free from bias. However, with teams scattered, leaders replaced, and institutional memory fading, these critical processes are beginning to break down. Intelligence officers, unsure of shifting priorities under new leadership, begin to self-censor, producing reports they believe will align with political expectations rather than those driven by objective analysis. This kind of second-guessing can be fatal in intelligence work. When the pressure to conform overtakes the drive to report the truth, the CIA ceases to function as a reliable guardian of national security. The final and most tangible destabilization comes in the form of infrastructure decay. While much of the agency's physical and digital assets remain classified, certain alarming missteps have surfaced in public view. The Department of General Services, DOGE, recently listed government buildings for sale, accidentally including the CIA's headquarters in the listing. While the headquarters itself was never in real jeopardy, the blunder symbolizes a reckless devaluation of critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, resource constraints are leaving field agents and analysts without the tools necessary to operate effectively. Budget reductions mean fewer secure facilities, less funding for clandestine operations, and weaker cybersecurity protections. Intelligence gathering is an arms race, and as adversaries like China and Russia expand their capabilities, the CIA finds itself fighting with one hand tied behind its back. The danger of these combined failures is that intelligence agencies do not collapse overnight. They operate on momentum, carrying forward the inertia of past successes, even as internal dysfunction spreads. From the outside, everything appears operational, until a major intelligence failure makes the cracks undeniable. This is not an abstract concern. History has already shown us the consequences of a weakened CIA. In the late 1990s, interagency infighting and bureaucratic sluggishness prevented counterterrorism teams from adequately responding to the growing al-Qaeda threat. The intelligence was there, but the system failed to act on it. The result was 9/11, an attack that fundamentally reshaped global security policy. Today, the warning signs are once again flashing, but decision-makers seem intent on repeating past mistakes. The most chilling aspect of this unfolding crisis is that America's adversaries do not need to launch sophisticated operations to dismantle the CIA. They merely need to wait. Wait while we purge our intelligence ranks of seasoned professionals. Wait while we abandon the institutional knowledge that has kept us safe for decades. Wait while we dismantle the very processes that enable us to see threats before they materialize. The next intelligence failure is not a matter of if, but when. It could be a terrorist attack that should have been prevented, a cyber breach exposing classified operations, or a foreign intelligence coup that leaves our most guarded secrets exposed. And when that day comes, the realization will be as tragic as it is obvious. We did this to ourselves. The dismantling of the CIA is bigger than politics. It is bigger than budgets, policy debates, or who occupies the Oval Office. It is about national survival. If America is to remain a superpower, if we are to continue safeguarding our interests at home and abroad, we must resist the urge to treat our intelligence agencies as disposable. The time to act is now, before we wake up to a crisis from which recovery is no longer an option.